I'm Marshall Shannon with Ministry Design Concepts. Welcome to our video today as we give you an overview of the visioneering process. We have a good number of webinars that deal with the process of discerning God's vision for your ministry and all that is involved from start to finish as you go through the visioneering process. The discovery phase, which you see here, 4 phases that are involved in the ministry design process, but the discovery phase is where we want to deal with today as we talk about vision. Vision rests on foundationally upon a correct understanding of God's mission for your church and the core values that are a part of your collective body as you determine what is the driving force behind your ministry. And of course, these 3 things, core values, mission, and vision, is what you build your strategic plan upon. In the visioneering webinars, we are going to answer some key questions that you need to get answered in order to move your ministry forward. First, we're going to talk about the definition of vision. What is vision? What is visioneering? Why is defining it so important to your ministry? What happens if you define it incorrectly? What price will you pay if you define it wrong? What happens if you have disagreement among your leadership when it comes to discerning God's vision for your church? We also want to help you describe God's vision for your ministry so that you can explain it to your leadership and to your congregation and to your community, to illuminate it, to shed light on it, so that you can use and how to use word pictures and how to characterize it and give meaning to it so you can increase understanding. So we want to help you describe it. As I work with pastors around the country and they're struggling to create and understand vision and visioneering, we want to explain to you how you can describe it so that people can take ownership of it, so they can understand what God is thinking and how they can invest themselves in it. We want to help you create clear distinctions, delineations, so that people will understand by drawing in word pictures and sketching out for them what is the difference between vision and mission and values and strategic planning and other parts of the ministry design process. The differences there, similarities, contrast, and comparisons, so that they can understand more fully what we're doing when it comes to vision and visioneering. You need to understand the power of vision and what derives, what do you get out of the visioneering process. So why is this process important? What impact will it have on your congregation? You've got to be able to explain this to your ministry team, your leadership team, so that they will be willing to go with you and what effect it will have on you, your congregation, and your community. What will happen if you just ignore this and go on as you've always been doing ministry? What happens if you embrace it? What are the benefits from the process and the rewards? What product does it produce? You need to be able to answer these things as the senior pastor, the lead pastor, the person who is leading your ministry, because as you do ministry, are you going to want to do it by yourself? So who's going to lead the process, create the pathway, select the participants, pilot the process? Who will help? Are you going to use a Lone Ranger approach or a team approach? And when will each person become involved in the visioneering process? You need to have this all thought through before you launch your visioneering process. And that's why we put the videos together along with the support documents, a place for you to ask questions and give comments so you can interact with myself and others who are helping me to train, along with the live Q&A sessions. Discovering God's vision for your ministry is first and foremost a intimate personal relationship activity event with the Lord, with you and the Lord. So how are you going to do that? How will you know when you have discovered God's vision for your ministry? When do you do this? Where do you do this? Who is going to be involved? Why are you doing this? And what are you going to accomplish? And then you need to ask God to give you discernment. What is correct? What to include? And then the design of your vision. How are you going to state it so that others can buy into it, understand it, and motivate, energize your congregation to move forward in a certain direction? And how much are you going to state in that statement? Is it going to be 5 pages long, 2 pages long, a paragraph long? And then the development of your vision. How are you going to cultivate it? It needs to be cultivated. What do we mean by that? Well, we'll answer that in the webinars. And then how are you going to talk about the visioneering process and vision? When will you talk about it? How often and where? And where are you going to talk about it? In the community, in the church, just in your leadership, person to person, social media, public meetings? We help you think through and discern how you're going to talk about the visioneering process and the vision once that's been birthed. Who's going to talk about it? Well, everybody? Well, just the leadership? Is it going to be done only from the pulpit? Or are you going to use social media and other, your newsletter and emails and Facebook and other social media platforms to talk about the visioneering process? Now, how are you going to display it? You're going to communicate it, market it. How are you going to display it? How are you going to promote it? How are you going to deploy it, deliver it? How will you implement it? How will you know when you have fulfilled it? Every vision has a start and a finish. Go to Scripture and look at Moses leading the children of Israel into the Promised Land. Yes, it took years to get there, but at one point it was fulfilled. They had reached it. That part of the vision was carried out and completed, at least in my understanding. So you've got to talk about this. How will you know when you have fulfilled God's vision for your ministry, and then what's next? Vision does need to be defended and directed. And how will you protect and preserve God's vision for your ministry? Because at times in ministries there are dueling visions. The number one cause for pastors to lose their posts, their jobs, their church, their pastorate is because of competing visions. They have, the pastor, you have one vision, and your other leaders or another group in the church has another vision, and they are in opposition one to the other. And then churches get off vision. Just as they get off mission, they also get off vision. As you go through the visioneering module, these webinars are designed to answer these key questions of what exactly is vision. How would you describe it to your congregation and to others in your community? What makes it distinct? How is it powerful? How is it dominant? Who's going to direct and lead the process? How in the world are you going to discern and discover God's vision for your ministry? Then how will you develop and design it so that it carries out and you steward God's vision correctly? How are you going to talk about it? Who are you going to talk about it? How often will you talk about it? Where will you talk about it? How will you market it, promote it, and deliver it? And then you've got to protect and defend it so that it has a long life. These and other questions are answered in our visioneering module of how you discern and carry out God's vision for your ministry. Well, I'm Marshall Shannon, your ministry design coach with Ministry Design Training and Ministry Design Concepts. You can reach me by email or phone at this information there on the screen. I trust the Lord's blessing upon you as you discern subscribing and taking part in the visioneering process for your ministry.